microphone. Okay, we are good. That's the phone that's saying, hello everyone. Okay. See, this is the part I don't like about the live stream. They don't let you set it up before.
They're recording right now.
It should be live. Hi everybody, how you doing? I'm David, and this is my nephew Jake.
Hello.
And we are in Alabama. This is the heart of Dixie?
That's right.
Interesting.
Nice place.
Yeah, I wish the weather was a little bit better.
So, can you tell people watching or what?
Well, that's what I'm trying to, fortunately, they don't let you set this up beforehand, and I'm having trouble dragging this. This is not my computer, so I'm having trouble maneuvering. No, I'm trying to enlarge the screen a little bit, see, because this is too big. I've got to be able to see both screens. See how it's only letting me go half the page?
Yeah.
I tried dragging it. Ah! Yeah, okay. Yeah, see, we want to be able to see both. Now, as far as, now this should be, oh. I don't know if this is set up properly or not, because it's not my computer.
What are you looking for?
Well, normally what I do is I have my other laptop and I have that open and I watch it, because then this does not let you monitor it to see what other people are seeing. We only see what we see. No, this is what we see. This is our camera. And it says it's broadcasting, but a lot of times, see, this should tell me, this should have comments, and it's not giving me anything. So what I've got to do is I've got to go up here, and I'm going to have to log into this could screw things up right now. Yeah. Well, at least the sound's working. It sounded like the chipmunks.
Well, you got it to work, I guess.
We have I can't see how many. This computer blows. It's actually a nice computer. It's just, we have one person watching. Who are you? Say hello. It's probably us. We're watching ourselves. I'll bet it is. This thing makes no sense. They really make this so difficult to use. Hey, we should text your mother. Here. You ever run speed dial?
Well, you know.
I heard my phone ring. Okay, so. Okay, I'm going to turn the camera over to Jake here, and
What am I doing?
we're gonna introduce. I was actually talking to Dan on the way down when I drove from Nashville down to Tuscaloosa, and I said, Dan, I said, one of the things that I think would help people, maybe, at least I think so, is if we did like a daily scripture reading. And I said, one of the things that's I find very interesting is I meet a lot of people and they tell me that they read the Bible daily. And I wonder how many people actually understand what they're reading, number one. And number two, how many people actually, if they don't understand what they're reading, how are they going to apply it to their lives? And so him and I talked for about 2 hours. So it's going to be impossible for me to regurgitate the whole conversation. But I thought what we'd do is we'd cover one passage of the Bible. And I was talking with Jake, and Jake had a section here, so we're going to go into it. So Jake, why don't you I'll let you do the honors. How's that?
Sure.
Okay. You want to read out of that book, or do you want to read out of this? Start from 19:16, Matthew 19:16. You can read that. You said this is small.
No, I mean it's like the words are cut off.
Oh, but I can.
Well, it's fine. Okay, so 1916 to where?
To 24,
Okay.
down to, or actually to read as long as you think is relevant.
Reading from the book of Matthew, chapter 19, verse 16. Now behold, one came and said to him, Good teacher, what good thing shall I do that I may have eternal life? So he said to him, Why do you call me good? No one is good but the one that is God. But if you want to enter life, keep the commandments. He said to him, Which ones? Jesus said, You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness. Honor your father and your mother, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. The young man said to him, All these things I have kept from my youth. What do I still lack? Jesus said to him, If you want to be perfect, go and sell what you have and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come and follow me. But when the young man heard this, he went away sorrowful, for he had great possessions. Then Jesus said to his disciples, Surely I say to you, it is hard for a rich man to enter in the kingdom of heaven. And again I say to you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And when his disciples heard it, they were greatly astonished, saying, Who then can be saved? But Jesus looked at them and said to them, With men this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Then Peter answered and said to him, See, we have all left, all that and followed you. Therefore, what shall we have? So Jesus said to them, Surely I say to you that this is in the regeneration, when the Son of Man sits on the throne of his glory. You who have followed me on 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone who has left the houses, or brothers or sisters, or father or mother, or wife or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold and inherit eternal life. But many who are first will be last, and the last shall be first.
Yeah, and what I was thinking when you were reading this is one of the things Dan said to me that I mentioned before is he was saying that he doesn't fear death. Because for these men who actually knew Jesus Christ, they saw what he did in person.
Mm-hmm.
So if you saw somebody performing miracles, it requires, and I know it's going to be harsh, but it requires less faith because you're seeing the guy doing these magical things.
Yeah.
So you that's proof, right?
Right.
What proof do we have other than what the Bible says?
Well, there's another reading that says when the disciple Thomas didn't believe that he resurrected, and doubting Thomas, and Christ said, Blessed are those who believe but have not seen, because the disciples had believed but they hadn't seen, like you're saying. So it addresses
well,
that.
that's where it comes to having faith.
Right.
And what were the words that Dan used? God. I forget what he used, but basically I joked with him. I said, well, I guess I am one of those people who don't have a strong faith, I guess, because to be quite honest with you, it would, if you had proof that Jesus, God, existed, then it would make it easier to believe in the afterlife.
Well, if you had proof, then you wouldn't have faith.
Well, no, you'd have a bit better faith, because then you would know for sure that what you believe in is true.
Yeah, but if there was proof?
I mean, most people are practical people, kind of like, do you want to waste your time? Do you want to waste your energy on something that isn't true? It's like investing in a stock that you think is going to go up and it goes to zero. You feel like an idiot.
Well, I think people don't. When people invest your time, how do you mean invest your time in faith aspect?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying from the standpoint that if you live your life assuming that there is an afterlife, like for example, he basically told this guy to sell all his possessions, give the money to the poor,
right,
and follow him.
Right.
So basically, just take your clothes and come follow me. I mean, that's a pretty scary proposition.
Right.
I mean, especially in our society today, and man is man. Man hasn't changed. Right. Some societies use beads, some use rocks. We use fiat money, right? Or gold, diamond, silver, whatever you want to use. Mm-hmm. But we use material possessions. So that's our form of wealth. And so to give that all up it leads to another proverb or a testament where, God says, if I take care of the birds and the bees, then don't you think that I'll take care of you, right?
Right.
I think I'll feed you.
Right.
So he is right from saying that would be the ultimate faith. If you actually take God on his word and say, okay, I'm getting rid of everything and I'm just going to put a bag on my back and follow you and go help the poor or help people. And I said to Dan, I said, well, you go to Mexico or you go to China and you see how all these people live in squalor. And I mean, so is that what it's about? Is you have to go from living in a nice house to living in a shack or outside like those guys I met in Nashville last night?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that's
maybe he was Jesus.
I think, well, that goes back. That's an interesting. That goes into another thing. I know we can vary off this reading. We can talk about a few different things, but saying what you said about the homeless people is, Christ will show you have to try to see Christ in others. So yeah, that could have been him, because there's another parable, so to speak, where he says, when I was hungry, you didn't feed me. Or when I was thirsty, you didn't give me a drink, because Christ acts through other people. And when a homeless man knocks on your door at night because he's hungry or whatever, you have to see the face of Christ in that person.
Well, most people probably think he wants the $5 so he can buy a gallon of wine.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily
buy heroin.
You don't necessarily have to do it.
Give him food.
Yeah, one priest back at the home bearers talked about how this guy knocked on the parish door at night, and the priest washed his clothes in the dryer and made him dinner and gave him a jacket and sent him on his way. And that's all he wanted. He didn't want any cash. And the priest used the phrase, Christ came to visit me that night. And that is, I would agree with that scenario. That's what it was. But I mean, there are different ways you could interpret that.
Well, I'm not always so magnanimous, to be honest with you.
So what?
Magnanimous. I don't always, I don't always step up to the plate and help the people.
Yeah, well, it's hard, and that's I think that's that's one thing.
I try not to ignore them. I try to say hello.
Well, that's one thing that separates. Well, it depends what faith point you come from, because one fundamental difference between the Roman Catholics and the Protestant churches is that in the Catholic Church, salvation is achieved by works and faith. So it would be a priority to do good works, like it says in the book of James, but we should stay with Matthew. But anyway, yeah, it is hard, and that's what makes your faith strong. If you obviously not everyone is able to easily give up all their possessions, but one way you can, make up for that, I guess, is, maybe give to the poor more through that regard. Like, well, when he washed his sheets or whatever, things like that.
Well, what do you think he meant with that phrase about the camel?
Well, I think he's saying that.
Let me just read this again. Well, you can read it. I can find it right here.
There it is. Truly I tell you, it is hard for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. Well, obviously, picturing a camel going through a piece of space this big is,
Why a camel?
well, it could be anything, just something of that size, something that's impossible to us as humans. It could be anything. It just, everyone is traveling on camels, but I think it means, it's if you were filled with vanity, possessions, wealth, then it's difficult to enter the kingdom of heaven because instead of giving to those who have nothing, collect unnecessary surplus, so to speak.
But it's hard for someone who is rich to enter.
Yes, because they should be obligated.
Is it because are they? It also says in the Bible that the love of money is the root of all evil.
Right.
Not money, but the love of money.
Right.
So it's not money itself. It's not having money. It's not having wealth. It's the love of it.
Right.
It's putting money above everything else.
Yeah, well, depending on where in the Bible.
So it doesn't mean that you have to give all your money away to prove that it doesn't mean anything.
No, I think Jesus came and he was extremely radical for his time. If your left hand causes you to sin, cut it off. I mean, he was extreme. And I do believe that he means what he says when he says that if you are very wealthy, then it will be very hard for you to enter the kingdom of heaven. Because instead
Well,
of...
shouldn't you be able to help more people if you're wealthy?
Yes, so if you're wealthy...
I mean, what about all these people who donate millions to help people into museums?
Yes, but they're still
Nick
worth...
Saban doing that.
I understand that, but Nick Saban also has a lake house in Georgia. All he drives a BMW. So I'm not to trash Nick Saban. I'm not attacking Nick Saban, but I'm just saying, like...
Nick Saban. Nick Saban.
Well, I don't know who's watching. So, no, I think if you're wealthy, you could, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and things like that, but Bill Gates is still worth some odd $1 billion. And if he really wants to follow the way of the Lord, then he would have to, in this circumstance, he would have to take... Do we know
if Bill Gates even believes?
No, I'm just using an example. I mean, a billionaire, a rich man, if he's going to give all his money away, then he would have, if he's following the scripture, then he would have to give.
That would be, boy, would that, I'm just trying to think of, when you hear stories, at least I've read stories about people who were billionaires or in their time, not billionaires, but way back when people would amass fortunes and they end up penniless when they die.
Right.
I can't think of them all, but you're like, how can somebody do that? Now, these people I don't think gave their money away. Tesla, for example. Tesla ended up living in
exactly. You're right.
And there are other
Jefferson died penniless.
Right, and in significant debt.
Yep. U.S. Grant. I don't know how wealthy he was, but he died very poor.
That's a very scary thing. Is when you think about. I mean, you're a young guy,
right?
So you can attest to this because I'm an older guy, and there's intense pressure in our society that's tied to your manhood and your success. As to, it's almost like how many scalps have you collected? Have you had a great job? Do you have a great education? Do you have a nice car, a nice house, nice wife, lots of possessions? Right?
Mm-hmm.
You have, most people would be embarrassed to drive a crappy car or to live in a crappy home. They wouldn't want to bring people over. Whereas if people lived in a mansion, that throw giant parties and look at how great I am, or that's what they're saying. So in our society, your self-worth is tied to your net worth.
Yeah.
So that makes it even harder to follow this. So that's why I was saying to Dan, fine, people read the Bible. I know people that are like, yeah, I read the Bible every day. I'm like, well, I don't. I guess I'm going to hell. But but when you read it, Shakespeare, it's like he saith this, and people. I'm wondering how many people actually understand to in today's
Well,
language.
that's why the church didn't allow its convents to read scripture until the Vatican II Council in the 20th century.
What? What's this? They didn't allow what?
The Catholics didn't read scripture until, because it takes a lot of education to understand what's going on. Not any old common man can interpret what he thinks this is saying. You need a priest who's been through seminary for 6 years and studied the scriptures and to interpret it for the people, for the common folk, which is why Vatican II is so controversial and why there's no Latin Mass anymore. It's in vernacular, common tongue. It all, there's a reason for that. And Catholics don't really, I don't think they should be interpreting Old Testament or non-gospel literature on, that's more, I don't think that, I don't think it takes any old guy off the street to determine what he thinks it's saying. So the people that say they read it every day, that could be useless.
And how do you think technology plays into? Dan was saying that he thinks that technology, the way it's going, is the beginning of the mark of the beast.
How do technology?
It goes down to where people are getting chips in their hand, and it goes down to artificial intelligence. Once artificial intelligence comes along, who needs people?
Yeah, well, if there's but people create artificial intelligence, and if they find it to be useless, I don't know what. I'm not educated in this field, but.
Well, if you create something that becomes more powerful than you, how can you shut it down?
I don't think it's going to have the ability to. This is like a sci-fi movie. I don't foresee.
Well, maybe not today, but over time.
I don't know. I don't think that will be an issue. I don't know. The advancement of technology being the mark of the beast. I don't know about that. I wasn't there for this conversation. What exactly was
I don't remember. Well, let's just, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but let's just drive on. So how can we apply what we just read today? Okay. Are people going to, like, for example, would you expect, you'd probably think if your mother or father said, hey, Jake, we're putting everything away, and we're going to go work in Haiti. You'd think they're bananas, right?
No. In fact, if they,
you'd be like, I'm committing you to the asylum.
No. If they were to do that, this is a controversial situation because I'm enrolled in college undergrad that is obviously, it's not free, and I could be dropping everything and going to Haiti like them, theoretically. But I think something like this, college education or the money that you're born into, you could use it as a young person as a tool to further advance yourself to help people in a better way in the future. So if someone like Bill Gates, for example, he dropped everything when he was 19 and went to Haiti, would he have effectively helped more people than becoming the billionaire he is and creating all these foundations? He did a lot of work in Africa, I know. I don't know. So in that case, he took his education and the money and the resources he had and made himself more beneficial to the poor than dropping everything. And theoretically, if he were to do that. So that would be my defense for not dropping everything at this point in time. My parents' defense, I suppose, would be they're paying for me to be here. So I guess that's why they should drop everything. But if they were to do that, I would have to find another way.
The good of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Yeah, that's true. Taking that, if the many were to be, so we're sticking with the Haiti thing. So if the many were to be the Haitians, And the parents went down there, cut off my financing, and started helping the Haitians. Okay. And then I got canned from the education. I'm not saying I would be a Bill Gates, but if I cut my education and joined them in Haiti and helped the many, in this case, so to speak, then we don't know how many my education would have helped if I were to stay in school. Because we can't, we can't tell in the future. So if I were to stay in school and do something else with the Haitians or whatever, with the education, with other resources I had, you don't know. It's like, are you going to get a good return on the investment or not? It's just, you never really tell. But in this case, I would say, for now, that I'll stay here, and I think my parents will stay where they are. And that's how it's going to be, at least for the next few years.
So this young guy who Jesus had talked to.
Yes. Well,
how do we know that? How do we know that it was better for him to give everything up instead of being Bill Gates?
Well, in this case, I think what happened is this guy had a lot of possessions. It says here.
Yeah.
This guy came to Christ who had a lot of possessions, and he said he followed all the commandments.
Right.
And Christ said, well, the only way to further pursue your path to the kingdom of God is to give up your possessions and help the poor. So if we're going to talk about the Bill Gates thing, I said this earlier, is yes, technically Bill Gates, if he, or a billionaire, if he wants to try to further his guarantee to salvation, he would have to give up every penny at that time, And
here's the idea. I'm remembering from the discussion with Dan, and what it talks to is he said that he has no fear of death.
Right.
Because he knows that what comes next, much better, much greater. And so we're only on this world, like I went to Andrew Jackson's home. I mean, he accomplished great things, but he was here 80 years.
Right.
And in the grand scheme of history, 80 years is not even a blink of an eye.
Right.
So we're here for just a short time compared to the amount of time we're elsewhere. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know if Earth actually is purgatory. Because you hear about purgatory, I mean, purgatory is a way station, so I've often wondered, is Earth or Judgment Day?
Well, the church would say, if we're going off the church, it would say that before you enter.
But church is a man-made institution.
Well, it was founded by Christ. Is Peter the first pope, Christ's disciple, and there are scripture, and obviously this is based.
But Jesus warned about man-made religion. I don't remember the exact scripture, but I think he was saying follow the word, not necessarily any. I can't reference that.
Yeah. Well, I think purgatory, it's mentioned in a couple. Protestants don't believe in purgatory, but in a few places in Scripture, depending on how it's mentioned in there. But it's supposed to be a cleansing state before you enter the kingdom of heaven, because there's no sin in the kingdom of heaven. So unless on your deathbed, unless you're sinless, then planet Earth can't be purgatory, because we are constantly sinning. We're always sinners. So if we would have to reconcile ourselves with God before we see his face in heaven, which would be through purgatory. I mean, you could confess all your sins and then die, which I suppose would work.
So is this saying that Bill Gates is not going to enter the kingdom of God?
No, it's saying it would be difficult to. It'd be difficult.
Because let's face it, you're not going to look at life the same way if you're wealthy than if you do.
It's like anything. If you get,
you're going to be more judgmental of people when you have a lot of money.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like last night, I could go out on the street and talk to those guys.
Right.
And I had no fear.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think most people with money would probably cross the street.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
I'm not saying all of them.
Yeah, that's true. I think no, it doesn't. he says it would be difficult. However, Christ also said, Bill Gates has, you're right, he has donated a lot of money to various charitable organizations. So who knows? And man, no cleric, no pope, bishop can determine the salvation of anyone at any time. So God will decide. So we can only confirm one person, one mortal man, not Christ, but one mortal man went to heaven. The good thief is the only person we know.
Who?
The good thief. When Christ was crucified, the guy in the
he promised.
Right. Today you will be with me in paradise. So heaven has at least 4
And his mother.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, she was sinless, but she was mortal.
Yeah, she didn't even. Yeah, she was. What's that called when Mary was?
The Assumption.
Yeah, the Assumption.
Right.
Yeah, she was.
Right. So, yeah. And we got to get some people here.
I wonder if that's.
Isn't that us?
Well, it could be. I think even your mother dropped us. She's like, forget this.
Well, there's got to be.
I said hello, everyone. No one wrote back.
They'll
Well, so it comes down to I don't think it counts as. Yeah. Maybe, is this better? Can you hear me better now? Yeah. I'm feeling a little tired, so maybe that's it.
All right. So I don't know. I think we would cover the main area with the difficulty of achieving salvation with great wealth.
Right. So.
Do you want to do another reading?
Yeah, we can do that. We can just open to a random section of the Bible, or with Matthew, or whoever you said you'd like. Who else? This will be an example of.
Obviously, we're all I didn't do these things, but around college campuses, you often hear people criticize other people for doing things wrong, or they do something good, they want to put themselves on a pedestal, type, And in a couple places, in at least Matthew and Mark, it describes things like, why would you remove, and Matthew does, why would you remove a splinter from your neighbor's eye when you have a board in your own eye? So
it's almost like don't throw rocks at glass houses, right?
Exactly. It's easy to judge. But when we look at ourselves, we're all filled with flaws. And we all have our own issues. And what would other people say about it? And what they think we do wrong. So I think that's an important message in light of a lot of kids today.
Just kids?
Anybody. Well, just because I'm constantly, but a lot of people may easily criticize others. But we're all sinners. So I just wanted to bring that up. If you had any commentary.
Well, I think people are judgmental. I mean, that's why they have gossip shows and gossip pages, and that's what a lot of Twitter and Facebook. That's why I can't do social media, and that's where it comes down to what Dan was implying was the mark of the beast, like social media. I mean, it's a tool, right? I mean, a gun's a tool. I mean, you shoot somebody, it's either good, bad, depending on why you shot them. Social media, it could be a tool for good, it could be a tool for bad.
Yeah. It is an issue. Because it makes the world slow down. People, work, co-workers, as students at school, somebody does something, people do instantly, everyone's talking about it, criticizing the other guy for whatever reason, and it's easy, and it's easy to judge. But another thing is going back to Christ's words is, he who hath not sinned cast the first stone. Right? So if you're going to judge, you must be sinless. Judging on sin is.
Well, think about how spooky it would be. I mean, if you sold everything. I mean, talk about not knowing where you're getting your next meal. I don't see how that helps anybody.
Well,
Well, that's what if I help the birds and the bees, then don't you think that I'll help you since I love you more or something like that?
Was it is impossible for me, it's impossible for man to imagine the camel going through the eye of the needle, or selling all your possessions and being fine. But for God, anything is possible. So if you put your faith in Him and follow His commandments, then He will provide, and you will have 100-fold in heaven. So,
well, that's the key in heaven, because the honest answer is none of this guidance of the Bible is designed to make your life on earth easier.
No,
it's designed to.
Suffering is required.
It's designed to have you be prepared for heaven.
Right.
And so it may require, like you said, that you suffer or that you are sacrificed by whoever. I mean, a lot of the original apostles were burned in oil and crucified for believing in their faith.
Yeah, it's
yeah. She's saying you're muffled.
It's well, let's. I don't know what's going on. So yeah, let's see how it changes. But going back to suffering, there's another reading was about how some people, I don't know the exact passage, but some people came to Christ and said, why do I have to be persecuted and suffered if I were to follow you? And Christ said, if you want to follow me, take up your cross and follow me. You're going to suffer. Everyone needs to carry his cross, his own cross.
And that would scare a lot of people away.
Right?
If you went in for a job interview and somebody said, yeah, I'm not going to pay you. You're going to be in pain, but you might help some people, or you can go work for Goldman Sachs and make $1 million a year.
Yes. But it is the word of the Lord, which is, obviously different than an employer. And he said that your suffering and your sacrifice will be rewarded in heaven. And then he who gives his life for me will have, like you said, 100-fold in heaven. So yes, sacrifice and suffering is a part of life.
But I mean, here we go. This is what it comes down to. So if these people who read the Bible, if these people who go to church, if they truly believed that they would get 100 times return in heaven, it's like if I said to you, Jake, if you put down $10 on stock ABC today, it will give you 100-fold in a month or 2 months. You do it. But people don't go out and do these radical things because they don't really believe it.
Yeah, they believe.
No, they don't believe it at all. They think that if they donate to a church or the Salvation Army, then they're doing their thing. or if they do their small little part. They're not going to do something radical because they don't really believe that they just don't believe it, or they don't believe it.
Well, some
They don't believe that they have to sacrifice that deeply, and they don't believe that there's going to be a return.
well, in some churches,
Because if you truly believe, like if I really believe, see, one of the hard things about losing my mother is, will I ever see her again? No one can tell you the answer. And that's what I'm saying is, see, the original apostles, they could have greater faith because they saw it all. It's easy to believe when you see it happening right in front of you. But the only thing I have trouble with the Bible is I know it's supposedly God's word, but this was written by men.
well, it was written by men who were. This is hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's God through them.
Right.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm one of the people where, yeah, I have doubts. I'm not going out selling everything I own and helping them, the poor, etc. Because to be quite honest with you, I mean, I don't know if there's an afterlife. I mean, for as far as I know, this is the one time around, and I mean, I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling trying to make sure that I maximize my time on earth so that I'm just not working my entire life. And then at the end of your life, you're like, gee, where did it go? Boy, don't I have a lot of great things? Who cares?
Well, yeah, it's when you said don't practice these radical teachings. In that sense, since you wouldn't put yourself in that category,
No, I don't go to church.
right? So it wouldn't put you in the critical light, which is good for you.
Well, no, I have definitely been guilty of being a hypocrite.
Well, in this
one of the things I
context,
strive not to be, because I hate hypocrites.
in this context. So, yeah, it's true. And people that do have faith, you're right, they would technically have to live out these teachings like this. And I actually, yeah, and there's been doubts,
Well, what good is it? How is it beneficial to have somebody go to school and accumulate $100,000 in debt for an education they're not even sure it's worthwhile?
Well, I don't know. I'm not in that situation.
No, I'm not. I know that, but there are a lot of people who do it because it's like what I was saying. It's like a herd mentality, like we talked about before. People believe that's the way it is. All right.
Oh, here we go.
Hey, Benny! We were just talking about Goldman Sachs. You think your mother contacted you? Did your mom contact you, Benny?
We'll wait for him to read. But what were we saying?
We were talking about paying $100,000 for an education.
Right. So I've actually met quite a few people that have taken on a lot of debt for, in my opinion, phony degrees. Like something, I know someone who's majoring in is family financial planning or growth, human development, and all these. I just don't understand. Like, I would never take out the money to do that. And if I was underprivileged or had no funds, I would do the ROTC thing, the scholarship. We used to give up the 4 years. I would do the 2 years at the technical school and 2 years at the state university for $70,000 and get that. Or there are ways to do it. These people, I think, are foolish that waste this money at a 4-year institution with not even useful degrees, depending on how you look at it. And yeah, I think, well,
if people followed this, if people gave up everything to help people, wouldn't that be the downfall of our whole society? Well, I mean, people wouldn't be going to school. People wouldn't be becoming doctors. People wouldn't be doing useful jobs. They'd be like,
right. Well, so saying that, when I talked about earlier, my excuse for not giving everything I would be to say, well, what's the return on the investment if I were to educate myself and give it back later? So doctors, for example, if they were to educate themselves, go through medical school, and give back to the community as a medical doctor, it would mean that, yeah, they would give back in that sense. So when he says give everything up, maybe he's speaking of vanity. I mean, he said possessions. So depending on how you look at it, this is why.
Well, back then, it was 2,000 years ago.
Right.
I mean, I'm just going to grab my glasses while you're talking here. I just don't want to knock the table over. Here, you.
Yeah, so the doctor thing he was saying, I think it's when Christ says, give up all your possessions, I don't know that he means drop anything productive you'll ever do or you've ever done.
Well, did Jesus have any possessions?
I don't believe so.
Obviously, he didn't even have a Bible.
Well, it wasn't written yet. Well, at least not the New Testament. But yeah, no, he had sandals and clothes. Yeah, I don't think he did have any. Although I think life was probably a little bit more simple 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you probably didn't wander more than 20 miles away from where he's born.
Right. In fact, the most influential person in human history never wrote a book, never made a dime, never owned anything, never spoke one language, didn't travel much, and no one else in history changed the world more than he did.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But either way, that's what I think about that doctor example, was the fact that it's a greater return if you stay educated. So it doesn't. I don't think it has to mean drop anything productive you're doing or will do, and because if you do that, and then you become poor yourself. If you have nothing, then you are poor now. So now people help you. So no, I don't think that's what it means. I think it means give up vanity. He's used the word possessions, and of course that has been translated 3 times from Aramaic to Greek to English, which is 4 translations. But the word I think would be important. Because you have wealth, education, possessions, they're all very different. So, but if the word truly was possessions, then I don't think we would be talking about the education in that sense. That's just what my belief or my.
Well, you see, this is where the interpretation of this goes. I mean, it's confusing. I mean, you see, I'm under the philosophy where as long as I try to treat people as I want to be treated, that's what I think the meaning of Christianity is.
Right.
Is treating others as you want to be treated.
Right. Yeah, it's the second most important commandment. So.
Yeah, if you click that link, it will call up Google Hangout, a window, and then you click on Start Broadcasting. You enter, and then you can come in and join the conversation.
But what other topics do you think would be?
I don't know. I mean, I'm 50 years old and I still struggle with all this stuff.
Yeah.
Because the part I struggle with is if I wrote something down on a piece of paper and I said, oh look, it must be fact because it's written down. I mean, I don't mean to be cruel about the Bible, but we're reading from. I think that those are very interesting stories, and Jesus is the only perfect person to ever lived. But when you hear him say, if you're wealthy, drop everything. If you want, I mean, see, you're using your logic to justify why you don't want to give up your possessions. This guy could have said, but Lord, I'm a doctor. I'm helping all these people. That I didn't see the asterisks there that said, oh, but if you're a doctor or you're helping people.
Well, that's why I think it's important that everyone interprets the word of God for himself, which is fact, I shouldn't have done that. But either way, this is for kicks anyway. But
no, this is just discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. I don't have the answer. I mean, I'm still seeking. You know, I mean, as far as because you know, the grand scheme of thing is we are here very short. That's one reason why I travel, because as I age, I realize that every day is one day closer to the end. And so, do I want to maximize? I'm trying to maximize my time on Earth. What for me is maximizing time on Earth. And there are so many ways to do it. Some people, you know, like my brother, you know, his way to maximize is different. Doesn't mean he's right, I'm wrong. Doesn't mean I'm right, he's wrong. It's what we feel is right. But I can tell you, I spend 0% of my time worrying about how I'm going to help people less fortunate. I mean, I do the things like I give money to the homeless people. I donate to the Salvation Army. I try to volunteer my time when necessary, but I haven't given everything away to help poor people.
I don't know. I think the Salvation Army in those examples, that would qualify as that. You know, I think that is. But yeah, that's why the church has people who are trained in this to interpret it. Because
we don't know if they're trained or not. They're just telling us a story. I mean, for example, I remember your mother said to me, she goes, "Why am I going to take marriage advice from a priest who's never been married and never had to have a relationship with a partner?" I mean, it's a good point. I mean, what the heck do they know?
I don't know. I've never done that, but I don't know if he was giving. I don't know what she was asking for.
No, she wasn't. No, it's just when people go to a priest as a marriage counselor or something, well, what do they know? I mean, yeah, they can quote scripture, but
Right.
What do they know about what it takes to have a successful marriage? They've never been there.
Right.
Life experiences count for something.
Right. Well, when I say training, you know, the scriptures in seminary, that doesn't, you know, it doesn't mean they have to be marriage counselors. I just, you know, I think it's about they don't cover that in seminary. I don't think they do.
Can you read that? My glasses.
What
is that? Remember me? I remember me. Welcome. Me. What denomination? Well, I'm a Catholic, Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
Okay. But Christian.
Yeah, remember me? Yeah, please put in some commentary, say something, you know, if you have some discussion topics, please. God holds a marriage from falling apart.
Well, how about, I mean, what about, how do I put this? This is what I think about marriage is, at least in a lot of countries, is if 60% of the people get divorced, that means 40% of the people don't get divorced, right? But out of those 40% of people who don't get divorced, I think another 60% of them are probably very unhappy, but they don't get divorced because of children or money. They can't afford to be married, or somebody depends, so they just run through it. That means 84% of marriages are unsuccessful. 60% get divorced, and another 24% stay married.
Oh, that means what? 16% are successful.
Right. Would you invest your life savings in a gamble, 16% risk chance of return?
Well, if I know a lot of people that are married should not be married and made different choices in selecting their spouse than I would have, I don't know that would qualify as a reliable statistic for whether I choose a spouse or who I choose for a spouse, because people's other choices in marriage.
So if other people jump off the bridge, you're not going to jump off the bridge.
Right, exactly. So I know a lot of people that are married that got married with people in a transitional phase,
Oh yeah, I've talked to people before, and I'm like, hey, did you talk about this before you get married? No.
Exactly.
Did you talk about this?
Right.
No, right. We don't talk about that. And I'm like, well, no wonder you have problems.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I know a lot of people nowadays It was on the cover of Time magazine once. It said a couple of years ago. It said the child-free life, and it showed a married couple without children on the beach. And then there was another one that said the me generation.
You do have more money to spend without kids.
That's true. So, and the generation thing was about how a lot of people, I showed a girl snap her cell phone, taking a picture of herself on a cell phone with all the social media, and it's very self-absorbed folks, because life is a lot more easier than I'd say it was 100 years ago, depending on where you are in the USA. You don't have to work on the farm to provide for yourself. Like 90% of the
Well, you used to have to work 4 or 5 hours a day just to get food.
Exactly. So I think it's a lot more easier. People have a lot more time on their hands. They tend to be more self-absorbed. And in a marriage, obviously, two things that are very important. I'm not married, but I would imagine that self-sacrifice and acknowledging the fact that you're going to suffer, like we talked about before.
Communication is the most important.
Exactly. Exactly. Like we were talking about, if you're going to unite yourself with Christ, then, suffering and self-sacrifice will come. And with marriage, communication is wicked important. And the fact that you're going to have to give up some things and negotiate and get through. But it's not all a chore. I mean, marriage can be good too, obviously. You chose to spend the rest of your life with someone. There has to be some kind of justification behind it. So I would say that I would not judge the probability of my marriage being, this is theoretical, of course, but my marriage to be successful based on the choices.
You're 18 years old.
I'm just saying, as talking about marriage in humanity, I wouldn't, if I was 30, 40, 18, whatever, I would not determine my choice to marry someone based on how other people have turned out with marriage. Because
nobody does. I mean, do you think well, I'm sure some people are. I'd say a lot of people probably are not going down the altar thinking, well, if this doesn't work out, I'll get divorced. I think some do, but I think most people think that they're not going to be in that statistical analysis. But when you see 84%, that's a very, very high number. 84%. I mean, it's like, okay, Jake, we're going into battle. Combat casualty rate. You're thinking, I better get this letter off to my family before I go into battle because I'm probably not coming home.
Yeah. Who the person is to make that choice based on the risk.
Hey, remember me? Are you still there?
I don't think so.
Okay, I was going to ask some questions. Yeah. Well, I've never understood that, to be honest with you, where that's another thing where the segments of Christianity. Oh, you're still there. Are you married?
What were you saying about the?
Uh-oh. Oh boy, you're asking me my opinion. I mean, who knows if I'm right? Well, you're married. So, and are you what denomination are you? Remember me? There's probably a 30-second delay here. Yeah, there's like a definite delay because I saw that from the when we shot the bonfire party. It'd be like Madeline would be doing something, and I'd be like, oh, let me go watch it on the screen. And by the time I got to the screen, I'd be watching it. This is what we get on messages. Russian Orthodox. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you must watch Brother Nathaniel. He's a Russian Orthodox guy. I don't know what's wrong with this. Whatever you did to the screen, it's like looking like orange or yellow. I can't read it. Oh, I like the blue light. Yeah. because I can read it. Oh, much better. Thank you.
Yeah, there are quite a few Greek Orthodox.
Well, remember me, if 84% of the people are unhappy with marriage, to me, it makes me very cautious about who I'm going to join that union with, because, and I mean, the future is unknown as well. Life changes. And if one person gives up, I mean, it's over. I've seen that happen to friends where one person in the marriage said, yeah, I don't want you anymore. I'm tired of you, whatever the words are. And then there's nothing you can do. If one person gives up, I mean, the marriage is gone. Now, hopefully before it gets to that point, you'll recognize it. But that's, I mean, I've noticed this with men is, guys don't always see things coming like that. We tend to be so preoccupied with living, like we're bulls in China shop. And then all of a sudden it comes like the woman comes and says, well, I have a problem with it. And you're like, what? And people are focused on the wrong thing. So what is the wrong thing? Is the wrong thing trying to make more money or trying to be happy with life? Is that the wrong thing? What is the wrong thing? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of seek God's righteousness first. Remember me says, seek God's righteousness first, and everything else shall follow.
It has to be a mutual seek for his righteousness. The money, sex, pride of life.
This is good. This is not going to show up in the. So remember me says, money, sex, pride.
Pride of life, lust of the world, lust of the world. So money, sex, lust of the world, possessions. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean,
well, isn't that what life is all about? I'm joking. You're taking all the fun out of it. It's like you can eat anything you want as long as it's right, as long as it's just broccoli. Well, we don't know if it's a he.
Yeah, my English teacher in high school said that her husband left her because he was looking for someone with more money. So, that's true. He was after the money part.
A guy was looking for money?
Well, the woman was an English teacher. Obviously, he wasn't getting his value.
Yeah, well, he knew she was an English teacher. What do you think? She was going to win the lottery?
Maybe she went from public to the pressure out there. But anyway, yeah, I would agree with this statement. That is what the world is dictating. So
well, that's what we were just talking about before you came on, is that at least in the United States, especially, look at this kid's in college right now. Why do people go to college, right? People go to college because they think they're going to make more money, right?
Well,
with a college education than without.
I think there are a few.
Or they're trying to delay going into the workforce.
A few reasons. But continue.
No, I think that our society puts more weight. Like, for example, look, we were just talking about it. We're at the University of Alabama. Nick Saban is the football coach here, a football coach. And he is the top paid public employee in the state of Alabama. And if you look at every state in the country, it's almost always a football or a basketball coach who's the highest paid guy or woman in the state. It's almost all men, I believe. Yeah. I don't want to say it's not, but right. Okay. But my point is doesn't that say a lot about the United States when sports? I mean, I like football fine, but it's a game, man. It's a business, but it has. I mean, is it really that important that you're going to pay them more than the president of the United States and more than anybody, right, in the state anyways. To me, that tells you the country's broken.
Well, I look at that and I say, yeah, I'm not interested in sports, but at the same time, like you said, it was a business, and you look at other businesses like, the football is a leisure, so to speak. Like it's just and something you buy into for entertainment or leisurely purposes, like almost any other consumer product. Okay, like this bike in here, anything else, the coffee we drink, you don't need it. It's just a nice luxury to compliment. So take Nick Saban or any other coach, and you say, well, instead of he's sort of selling the school in the sports sense, he's marketing the university as around the country with our football program and whatnot. Well, just if it's a business, then put a product in there. Say he was a coffee salesman and he owned all this huge coffee distribution throughout the country and the world. And that's a business, and the guy's making a lot of money. He's bringing a lot of money in. I mean, should he be paid $12 million? I mean, a little excessive, but it's a businessman, and he's making millions and millions for the school. So, and the players are unpaid anyway. So, I don't know. It is a business, and it makes a lot of money.
Well, that's why they defend it. They're like, well, if Nick Saban is bringing in $1 million to the University of Alabama. I mean, what he's making is he should be making 10 times more for how much he's doing for the school.
Well,
because I mean, in essence, if it wasn't for football, and I don't mean any offense to Alabama, but would any school that has such a high-profile program even on anybody's radar if it wasn't for the football program?
Yeah. Well, again, it's marketing thing, business. Nick Saban, I suppose, if you look at it, which I kind of do, because I don't really care about football, he's marketing my school and he's making it. This doesn't get. But anyway, he's marketing. He's marketing my school, and he's successful coaching skills, whether it's his coaching skills or not. They improved the team so much, which they've been undefeated this year, except for the Auburn game. And when people, when you're undefeated, you're number one in the country, people know your school because it's out there and it's marketed in that way. So it brings in more kids and it brings in more money and it provides more scholarships. So if another school were to offer Nick Saban more money, and we lost him, and the program got shitty, and we lost kids, and we lost money, and we lost scholarships. And
how is it? I mean, it's that's going to what Remember Me is saying. Thanks, Remember Me. Repent. Well, I hear you. There's a lot to repent about. Yeah, it's well, very interesting. It's too bad that you couldn't join us and talk about it because you'd have a different perspective, perhaps. But we got a message here as well. Is two single guys talking about marriage, right? I mean, it's as bad as the priest talking about marriage. I hear you. So I'm just giving my opinion. I'm not saying. Okay, if you look under the live chat on the video, there's comments being left. And in there's one by DavidisDawei. There's a link there. It says HTTPS. You can't, all you got to do is click on it. You don't have to type it.
Or
click on
copy
it.
and paste it into your URL.
Right. Okay. Well, they can't smell your breath. All right, so we lost Jake temporarily. But let's see the other messages here. Well, it's all right. I brought mine in. Well, we had a visit from Remember Me who left some comments, and these comments don't survive after this live stream ends. And they're ex-Russian Orthodox, and he or she said, people are focused on the wrong thing. They seek God's, he he or she said, seek God's righteousness first and everything else shall follow. People focus on money, sex, pride of life, lust of the world. This is what the world is dictating. God says otherwise. Yeah, it said X.
So he left the church.
Or who knows? Maybe they converted to Muslim, Islam. Well, I mean, let's face it. I mean, a man-made religion. I have a problem with all man-made religions. Call it whatever you will. I don't think that man-made religion helps the world. I'm sorry. I really don't. I do. I absolutely do. Because you have men running it. The Pope is a man. Yeah, but it wasn't the Catholic Church back then. It was the Christian Church.
Christ said, well, the word Catholic.
What is that noise? Oh.
Christ used the word Catholic to describe the church, but not the Catholic meaning universal church, the worldwide church that people are supposed to join.
Come on in. It's a party. No, don't worry. Yeah. Don't say that.
What was that? Yeah, no, I don't know. Maybe man. But I support because if you look at something like the Methodist Church or the Lutheran Church, depending on where you are in the world, it's different. It's not organized. But you can go to a mass in Israel or the USA or Canada, same thing, same. Okay, that's why I think an organized church.
Hey, you know what's? I'm going to bring it up, even though I probably shouldn't. I went to dinner with Jake tonight at the school cafeteria, and on the school newspaper, is that this? Yeah, Jake calls it up and says, "What do you see?" And I was like, "It looks like a girl dressed thinking it's a boy," and this is the University of Alabama. I mean, this is as conservative a place as you get. Making that a central feature, and I'm not saying that's good or bad, okay, because the person is who they are. And I truly believe that a lot of people who are gay or transgender or whatever the proper terminology is, I think that's the way they're born. And in the old days, as a teenager, and even before, I think it was very difficult for people who were different, because there was a lot of, that's why the term "staying in the closet" comes from, because it was really frowned upon by. Okay. Just drunk. Yeah. So I think at least today, people are able to be who they are and not be ostracized and criticized for that. But I also don't think that they should be celebrated. I don't think Bruce Jenner should have been Man or Woman of the Year, whatever. I don't think he should have been celebrated for doing what he's doing. I mean, if people want to do those things, that's fine. But because it's in my opinion, it's the wrong focus. It's focusing energy on the wrong thing. I mean, fine, can't we just accept who we are? And it's like what I was saying to you, when I hire people, if somebody comes in, whether they're gay, straight, or whatever they are, if they're starting to make that the focus at the work, they're gone. I mean, it's what you can do at work that keeps your job, not, do you want to be called he or she? So I find that very interesting. And so, it goes into, I'm curious as to whether people think that is tied into the Bible as well. I mean, because I'm sure there were gay people back in Jesus' time.
I don't think they would
They didn't stone people to death in the Catholic.
No.
Oh yeah. Or I mean, the Christian Church didn't promote being stoned to death.
But I'm saying if you told villagers 2,000 years ago you were gay, you're toast. Okay, the church didn't endorse that, but people.
Well, what about Alexander the Great and these other, before Jesus' time? I mean, obviously it was accepted back then that a lot of these men would take up with young boys.
Yeah, that was very popular in the Trojan and Greek traditions. Ancient, before Christ, they would be considered bisexual. But it was a cultural thing. It was everyone was.
And I don't know why they chose young boys. It's almost like how that only men could act in plays and only men could do so. Maybe women just weren't. I don't know. Maybe women weren't available.
Well, I think it was also a prejudice too. I 1,000 years ago or whatever time, excluding women was a common practice in everything.
The what?
Excluding women was common.
Right. Yeah, even voting until just 100 years ago.
Not even.
In 1920, right? 1919? 1920.
Yeah. So yeah. But anyway, I don't think any desecration you perform to your body is not beneficial to society or to yourself. So promoting people that claim to be, I don't know. This is recorded, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think the promotion of that behavior is appropriate. That's all I'm going to say about that. But
what about the people who? I mean, do you agree or disagree that most people who are gay, and I don't want to get into all these variations of gay, I'm just going to say gay or straight, because most of the people who are gay are born that way.
Mm-hmm.
You agree or disagree?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So if they're born that way, isn't it like if I was born gay, I would want the ability to be myself. I wouldn't want to have to. I wouldn't want if I was attracted to men, which I'm not, but if I was, then I wouldn't want to have to be forced to marry a woman to make people believe that I was something that I wasn't.
Yeah, but that's
because if you follow the Bible, wouldn't the Bible tell you to be true to yourself? Or?
No, well, in that sense, you wouldn't. Other than another guy.
That's Ben.
Oh. No, the scriptures would not say.
Ben, click the link above. You see right above where you typed.
Gays can be in the church. They can be in the Catholic Church. You can't get married, obviously. Of course not.
What do you mean married to the same sex?
Right. And you definitely.
But they could marry the opposite sex.
Yes, and.
But if you marry somebody in the church and you don't love them, isn't it fraud?
I suppose it would be. I've never heard that example.
Well, it happens all the time. People marry.
No, I mean like the church's stance on that example. That detail. But no, I don't support same-sex marriage, and I don't think any marriage issued by the state or a civil license.
Well, let's not call it marriage. I mean, what about gay people having, for example, if I was gay and I had somebody living with me and I went into the hospital, and I mean, you could write a medical directive, but let's say I didn't. I mean, let's say I lived with somebody, we both lived in the same house, and I died, and then my family tried to take the house away from the person I was living with, because they are,
Well, yeah.
I'd have to write a specific contract to.
Okay. So if you own the house with I guess it would be a partner. It depends. So if you had a civil union or a marriage issued by the state, and you co-own the house, I guess, And if you
it would automatically revert to your spouse.
yeah, right.
It wouldn't involve your family.
Right. So if you weren't married to this person, whoever paid for the house or contributed to it, whichever house.
It might be like if you're living with your girlfriend before you're married.
Yeah. Whoever contributes the money to the house would be there. I mean, I don't know how this works, but I assume if you own something like a house, you died, it'd be in your will or however, to who gets it, and whoever's whoever's name is in the house gets the house. I mean, that's what it is. So, but no, I don't. The church doesn't issue those.
And it also comes to taxes and money. I think I remember I talked to my friend Frank, and I was like, Frank, what is it? You know, he's gay, and I said, Frank, what's the big deal about marriage? I mean, why? I asked him the same questions, and it comes down to money. You know, it comes down to finances, money, taxes. You know, the breaks you get from the government. They wanted the same thing on that. Maybe it's because, you know, I don't know.
I don't know. That's possible. I mean, that's why I know the states we started with, they called it as a civil union for same-sex couples, that it wasn't a legitimate marriage license, but they would issue them civil unions. But I don't know what the law would entail with that, whether you get the same benefits as a married couple or not. But I don't know. I know the church doesn't.
So should government even be getting involved in these things?
Well, let's see. So if you have pay taxes, it depends. What
I mean, I've told you before. I mean, it's government. Our government has run amok. I mean, if you look at what the Constitution started with and what our government is today, I mean, we're going to have to roll it back to where, you know, a lot of these decisions shouldn't be government decisions, at least not federal government. Maybe state governments or local governments can decide this. Because remember what I was saying at the cafeteria, I mean, back when the original colony started, I mean, New Hampshire, the people in New Hampshire believed in very different things than the people of Tennessee or Georgia or Jersey. And that's how it worked is if you felt strongly about certain issues, you went to certain states. And the United States formed over very few things. They agreed about the common defense, and they agreed about, you know, common money and common treaties, that type of thing, because they realized it was in their best interest. But they realized once you get above a certain number of people, you're never going to agree upon things. So government forcing people to live under the same rules when they don't agree with them is ridiculous, because it's like writing laws that, you know, it's like writing a law saying you can drive on the highway at 25 miles an hour. Nobody's going to do it. That's why the highways are now 70 miles an hour, because they finally threw up their hands. And back in 100 years ago with Prohibition, they tried to, you know, outlaw booze, and they finally realized that law on drugs failed. So they're going to eventually realize that all wars on drugs fail. And I know that people want government. There's people out there who believe government should be regulating everything. The problem with that is it doesn't work, and everybody ends up losing. And people have to regulate themselves, and they have to regulate each other in their communities. You can't have Big Brother saying, you will all follow this. And if we really want to follow it, if Jesus' words said, give up everything, I say the same thing for government. Have government take no money, okay? And people will be like, well, what will we do about the schools? What will we do about the roads? What will we do about this? The money will come for that. That's never a problem. I think we've got to basically disband the entire federal government, get rid of all the bureaucrats, get rid of all the politicians, instill, anytime a funding bill is passed, instill sundown laws, okay, so that every year they have to go back and argue why that thing should be funded, so that there's not this universal funding that, you know, and you can't attach pork to it. Basically, every item has to stand on its own. You vote on each item individually so that they can't say, okay, Jake, I'm not going to vote for your bill unless you put in the $12 million of pork for my district. That can't go in. You're going to have to write your own bill to justify that pork. And thirdly, there's need to be term limits so that you've got a senator here who's been in Alabama that's been there like for 40 years or something.
Since
87, so 30 years. Okay, he's got to go. He should have been voted out 20 years ago or 18 years ago. 2 terms, just like the president. If it's good enough for the president, it's good enough for senators. I mean, 12 years, that's more than enough.
So yeah, let's go going back to the marriage where this started. Yeah, I don't know. So your taxes are affected on your marital status, I believe.
Yeah, your deductions.
You have that, and you have insurance is different. Is that correct? Your insurance policies.
Well, as the messenger said, I'm not married, so.
I think,
but things are different. I'm sure that married people are considered a safer investment.
Yeah, I think in terms of yeah, I suppose that's why same-sex folks are the government issued licenses, but you know, like the Frank. Is that who it is?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I suppose that makes sense, but I think the reason why, well, I know the reason why the church doesn't support same-sex marriages. If you were to harbor children in that environment, you wouldn't have a motherly figure. You wouldn't have the family order. You'd have 2 men or 2 women. That's not how a family works. And then,
well, we're going right into what the core reason for the downfall of America is: the disintegration of the family.
So that's
starting with the Brady Bunch.
Yeah,
right?
A mixed marriage is not how it's supposed to be. And that's what a same-sex couple is. That you can have children, raise children with no mother in the house or no father in the house. It makes no sense. I mean, who's going to be your father figure? Who's going to offer motherly love? That there's no greater attachment between a mother, a woman, and her child that she conceived and gave birth to. And messing up that, oh, he's here.
Benny, we can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
Or should we call you Carl Ross?
Hold on. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, but can't see you. It's all right if you don't want to be seen, but if you do, you just need to turn your camera on at the top.
Oh, no, it's all right. I look terrible. Trust me. But you can hear me good?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Okay.
Nice.
Why, you have underwear on your head or something like that?
It's about bad hair, dude.
Flip that. Flips the screen. So, thank you for joining us.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
My pleasure. Yeah.
This is from Boston.
That's right.
Is it nice and cold up there right now?
It's actually pretty warm. I don't know what happened, but it's like a tropical storm situation.
Tropical situation, a high of 42.
Yeah, exactly. Tropical for up here.
Hey, do you want to say hi to your mom? I think she's listening.
Is she on here?
Yes.
All right. Hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Hear from you.
Do you have any input on this?
What are you talking about?
Well, what would you like to talk about?
All right. First of all, my audio is bad. I don't know why, but
our audio is bad.
A little bit. It might be because I have headphones on. Hold on. Let me try this.
We lose it? Benihana?
Well, anyway, while he's getting set up.
Well, I'll fill that. We'll do a song and dance here.
Let's see.
It says it's here. We can't hear you at all now, Ben. Benjamin.
Yeah, Jefferson Davis was inaugurated in Montgomery. We established that today.
Yeah, I've been wrong this whole trip. every time somebody says, "No, Dave, I think it's this," I'm like, "Really? Am I losing my mind?" I mean, it seems like every day I lose more and more facts. Yeah, no, we heard you fine, Betty. Don't worry about it.
We'll get him back on the line, but in the meantime, Savannah's a good place to visit. We talked about that. Good river walk, squares and green park. Yeah, a lot of good stuff going on. Let's see. Also, Mississippi.
So let's see. What percentage are non-married people happier than married? So it really, in my opinion, it really depends because I think if you're expecting,
No, Ben, we cannot hear you.
if you're expecting to get happiness from other people, I think you're going to lose. Hey, anti-gravity.
Well, I think you can get happiness from other people. I think you can do that. But
No,
yeah.
but I'm not saying you can't get, but I'm saying happiness. If you're not happy with yourself, you're not going to get happiness from others.
I'm back.
Okay, Benny.
All right.
Hey, you know why I called you Benny? Yeah, Benny Hanna.
That's right. Code name. Anyway,
You were yellow when you were born. You were yellow.
that's right.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yep, you were yellow. That's why I called you Benny Hanna.
Interesting.
Is that
No, it's Japanese. You know, technically Japanese have yellow skin, so I was like, hey, Benny Hanna.
yes? Yellow, red, brown, black.
Yeah, anti-gravity. I don't know why. Is that better?
Yeah.
I think it might be positioning on. Are you anti-gravity?
What does that mean?
Oh, it's a name on the screen who's coming up.
No, that's not me. It should just be my email. I don't know. I don't know who.
Oh, we got to see. Okay. Okay, I've just got to scream. Probably wake everybody up next door. Oh, Ray. Yeah.
All right, that's perfect. Anyway,
Okay,
so
Benny, it's your dime.
all right.
Controversial.
And Jake said no Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Why not? No, I don't know. I don't.
And I am going to respond to you. I just been traveling, so I haven't had time to write a dissertation.
Oh yeah, no problem. No problem.
Yeah, and your mother says that she can hear you very well.
That what is very well?
She can hear you very clearly.
Oh, all right, good. Well, I'm glad the audience is in check.
She said that she loves you very much.
Thank you. Well, I thought it was interesting talking about college and whether it's worth it or not. That's an interesting topic to me. I don't know if you guys already talked.
Yeah, well, what's your input? What's your input? Do you think Jesus said you should go out and feed the poor instead?
Instead of going to college?
Right.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting because my opinion on whether college is worth it or not has changed since coming to college. And I can tell you that going into college, go ahead.
You're gonna announce tonight that you're leaving college?
No. I'm about one step away. No, I'm kidding.
You're just jumping off the bridge.
No, I mean, it depends. There's a lot of variables. And I think this is what you guys were kind of saying is it really depends on your individual financial position, whether it's worth it or not. It depends on the school. It depends on the program. And, I Me and Jake, we are in a specific position, but as far as people who are in other positions, and I work with this nonprofit that helps people kind of apply to college, and it really pushes college on high school kids in the city. And a lot of the time, it's what's funny. Oh, I don't know. I guess the point is that a lot of the time, I think like trade school or some other alternative would be better than a 4-year college and that amount of money. So I think it just depends on who you are.
Yeah, well, some people, let's face it, some people don't learn. I mean, let's put it this way. What is the point of going to school when you're just regurgitating what you think they want to hear? What does it teach?
Yeah,
you?
I mean, exactly. I think that one of the best parts, well, it depends. I mean, one of the best parts about coming to college is sometimes, if you're in my case, you get a lot of conflicting viewpoints, and you can kind of debate other people who you haven't heard their opinion, and they get to hear your opinion. You get to learn new perspectives and things like that.
Years old, so I mean, the point is, I mean, and I don't want to put words in your guys' mouth, but I remember when I was 18 and 19. I mean, how much do you really know at that age?
Exactly.
I mean, how much life experience do you have? So, I mean, your views may change 180 degrees in 5 years.
Yeah, and that's true. And but the one thing I'd say is, like, I wouldn't necessarily, I don't think that college is like, oh, you go to these classes and you learn so much and that's where the value comes in. I actually don't think that at all. I think most of the classes, especially in something like a business school or whatever, is really just not even close to worth the price. But I think that college is, at least for me, has been a platform for me to kind of take on my own learning, go out. It gives me the resources I need to kind of learn stuff that I'm interested in, and teach myself like valuable skills.
Couldn't you do that in your free time?
Say that again.
Couldn't you do this without paying $100,000?
How would you do this?
You could do it. Well, the technology is available.
Yeah.
All this information is online. You can take Harvard and Stanford and Yale courses online for free.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking. So, as a specific example, I would say is, for me, I'm interested in finance and I'm interested in investing, and there's a finance club and things like that. But one small example is, today I was using the Bloomberg terminal to kind of look at these projections, and it's stuff like that. Like, the school has a Bloomberg terminal. They have access to equity research reports. And so somebody who wasn't at BU, who doesn't have a BU email address, would never be able to, I mean, unless you want to pay $1,000 for a Bloomberg terminal. But, I mean, of course, you're not paying $250,000 to use a Bloomberg terminal. But it's just, it to me, if you utilize it, there's a lot of value.
What were you utilizing that you couldn't utilize somewhere else online?
Well, like the Bloomberg terminal, for instance, you would have to pay outrageous amounts of money. But I'm more talking about the people that you meet, the people that you surround yourself with. And I would personally say that again, Jake.
Connections you make, people you meet. Yeah, I agree with you.
Right. But also, it just gives you these openings. Like, I would have never known about the possibilities, about even any. I mean, I've learned so much in a year just by talking to my peers or talking to upperclassmen and professors. I just would have had no. Say that again.
Yeah, Ray. Click the link, Ray. Ray is asking questions here, and so I told him he can join the discussion. So, yeah, we can have up to 8 people. That's all right. That's the whole point. Ben, did we lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah. So, give me a specific example of what you said that you this last year you've I forget your exact words, but you've made contacts and how could you give me an example of what you were talking about?
Oh yeah, so let's say that in my case, let's say that I'm interested in learning about different types of careers in financial services or whatever. So with other people who have that same goal, like almost all of my friends currently are interested in that and are trying to achieve something like that. But there's another part of it where you can go out, you can go to a place like Boston or New York, and you can say, hey, I went to blah, blah, blah school. I know you went there as well. Would you mind, chatting with me about what you do? And they'll tell you, and, you get insight that way, and that's how you learn. That's one thing that I've have come to know, like these alumni networks and things like that. But I just think if I was on my own and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this on my own, I don't need college. There's one problem with that is you cannot, it's not possible to enter these types of industries without a degree. Number one, it's not possible. But number two, I think those.
Yeah. Okay. You mean like being a broker?
Being a broker, being in any type of financial services, when you're facing.
Well, you can pass a Series 7 without going.
Say that again.
You can pass a Series 7 exam without having a college education.
Yes, that's true, and that was actually very common back in the 80s.
Same thing with being a lawyer. I mean, you can pass the bar without ever going to school.
Listen, I'm sure it's possible.
I can study for it.
Did you say that?
Well, what I'm saying is, if you want to be in a role like Jake was kind of saying, you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, a corporate lawyer, if you want to be in investment banking or any type of investment when you're in a client-facing role, when you're dealing with clients, and those are the high salary roles is when you're dealing with clients. There's really no way, from what I know, to enter those fields without going to an undergrad school, a 4-year college. And not everybody wants to, do those jobs. And that's where you can say, I don't need to go to college. And, there's jobs where you even actually make more money per hour when you're not a lawyer, when you're not in investment banking. So it's not that that's like the end all be all and that's the number one spot objectively. But I think if you're interested in those fields, it's really, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, but in our current society, you really do need to go to an actually pretty good college, at least for financial services, to get into. There's just no way that they won't even look at you. But again, that's just my experience, and that doesn't necessarily mean college is even valuable. It just makes people like me kind of pigeonholed into having to go through it.
Well, I mean, it's you could argue that it's laziness, because people don't want to go out and forge their own path, so they follow a path that they think it will be successful.
Yeah. I mean, that's another way to look at it. And I don't know.
Back when your parents went to school, it was much more of a guarantee that a college education would offer a good return on investment. Today, I'm not sure that it's as guaranteed. I think that you make more money with an education with a degree, but it's almost like again, what Remember Me was saying is that could be a reason why our country is in such tough shape, because people are just looking at, how can I make more money for myself? How can I, you could even go to John F. Kennedy where he says, ask not what you can do,
what your country can do
for you.
Can you do?
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what everybody thinks about now is me. And it's no wonder that, like I told you, Benny, fiduciary responsibility no longer exists. It's no wonder that companies don't think about the good of the country. They think about the good of the bottom line.
Yeah, yeah, it's
I mean, above everything.
yeah, I mean, listen,
I mean, if you can increase profitability for your shareholders, but it throws your country down the tubes, kind of a short, short view, don't you think? A short,
yeah, no, I mean, I think it's
short-sighted view.
listen, I think there's no way you can argue against a stance that says, listen, our way of doing things in the U.S. with 4 quarters in a fiscal year and always looking towards growth in the next quarter, and we got to beat expectations. We have to, beat equity research expectations. That is absolutely a short-term mindset, and it has consequences as far as incentives go. And there's numerous examples of that. Um, and and I think, well, somebody just going, oh, good, something's going on.
Oh,
Hi,
yeah.
it looks like we're working.
We've got Ray on board now.
Oh, Ray.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Ray, turn off the video
Yeah.
in the background. I think you have the YouTube video on in the background.
Yeah, mute the video.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay. Mute something.
But yeah, I agree. I think I think if you have a short-term mindset, you will pay the consequences in some fashion.
Basically, I'll ask the question, and Jake will have to pick it up if he can't hear me. I mean, all you guys, Ray's in college, Ben, you're in college, and Jake's in college. Looking forward, how confident are you people that your education will actually lead to something positive? Well, Jake said he's very confident.
I can say the same thing. I am confident, but not for maybe the reasons other people think. I like I said, I explained the alumni network and things like that. But I'm confident as well.
Yeah, for me as well. But I still have graduate school left after I finish.
Ray, these guys haven't talked to you before. Now, Ray, why don't you tell us a little bit, just a little bit about yourself, your situation.
Oh, hi. My name is Ray, and I major in economics, and I was in China last year. That's how I got to know David, is through his YouTube channel.
Nice. Wait, can I ask Ray a question?
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Number one, where do you go to college? Like what country?
In the United States. I live in Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So a local school in Minnesota, or?
The U of M.
Okay. What do you think about? Well, this is a quick question. I don't want to get stuck on this topic, but as an econ student, I'm a business student. What do you think about like Wall Street? Would you ever do you want to work for Wall Street, or do you not want anything to do with Wall Street?
Originally I did, but I've kind of changed. Now my focus is going to be going towards graduate school and then getting into development economics. So, helping craft economic policy for developing countries is my goal. So maybe like the World Bank, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Even though I have reservations about the World Bank, I would say.
Yeah, the World Bank is very controversial, but
You're going to go to, if I remember correct, Ray, you wanted to go to DC and work for lobbyists, didn't you?
No. I applied for what are called the Office of Budget and Management as like a economist, but I don't know about that now.
Yeah. And did the experience over in China, did that give you, did you take away anything that did it change your view on your experience with how you're going forward on the world? or was
Oh,
it helpful at all?
No, it was definitely very helpful. I don't want to use the cliche broaden my horizon, but definitely it got me to think about there's more to the world than just America, and that there's many opportunities, especially in the developing countries, to if you want to do business, or move
Were you
or
shocked?
make a new life.
Yeah, and were you shocked at how advanced China is compared to what we were raised to believe?
Yes, by a lot. There's even other than WeChat, and there's even I went to a restaurant where there were no menus, no place to order. All of it was through your phone. You place the order, you pay through there, and then they would just bring it to you.
Well, and as a young person, do you think to yourself when you were over there, how is the United States going to compete with China?
Oh, for sure. Technology-wise, it's very, very advanced. Like even, like the bullet trains, I could go from what is essentially from here in Minnesota to New York in like 2 hours. So that's going to be difficult competing with that kind of like mobility.
I mean, we're going to have to do something extremely radical in this country. We're just going to have to throw the baby out with the bathwater, as they say, and just, start undergoing these projects. Because, I mean, the infrastructure of the United States is that of a third world country compared to China.
Well, how about China with the whole construction thing when they're pouring all this money into construction and nobody ever occupies the buildings? I heard a few articles on that. I don't know too much about it, but
Oh, you mean like the ghost cities?
yeah, stuff like that. I don't know if that's legit. I just
Oh no, it is it's definitely legit. But I think maybe they're propping up their housing market because they have a huge bubble at the moment. And yeah, because the housing price, I don't know if David you saw, but like what is essentially like 30 cubic meter apartment is like $1 million in Shanghai.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
So we can't hear you, David.
can't hear you.
What I said that Shanghai is ridiculous. It's one of the most expensive cities in the world now.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with housing, the food and living cost isn't too high. But if you
Right.
want to buy a house, or
Right, I meant
basically
housing.
basically it's an apartment when they say house. But
Right.
yeah, it's very important because that's the only way you're gonna get a girlfriend or get married is if you have an apartment. So
But if you look at the advancements coming out now, and I just commented, one of my friends posted a story about China, and I said to them, I said, here's the scary thing is when I was in China, almost all the Chinese that I knew automatically assumed that an American item was superior to a Chinese item because it had an American name or a foreign name. Today, and Ray, you probably have seen this, is now the Chinese are starting to buy Chinese goods like Huawei, right? Because now they're seeing that the Chinese goods are actually better quality than the foreign made goods. And that is always what I was afraid was going to happen is once we've given the Chinese our technology and they've grasped it, and now they're at the point where they're now designing their own products, we're screwed.
oh, for sure, they out capitalist us. Basically,
Yeah.
they would even if you want to start like a company there. Yeah.
Yeah, and so for young people like yourself, I mean, you're now going to be fighting an uphill battle, whereas 20 or 30 years ago, the United States had this advantage, and we let these companies give it away.
Oh, definitely. I would say, especially now, the world is smaller, as you could say. So we're not just competing with students within the country, but international students and students are around the world for any particular job because it's very easy to travel abroad and especially work here as in America.
Right. And I mean, if fine, we can say, okay, you guys are finance related or in that, and Jake's going to be accounting per
We'll
se.
see. We'll see.
Yeah, but the bottom line is finance and economic jobs. Okay, they go bye-bye when business goes bye-bye, right? I mean, your jobs are support jobs. What?
Well, it depends. Well, are you saying businesses go overseas?
Well, I mean, Ben, if we have 30% unemployment in the United States, that's going to eventually affect this country.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, finance and econ jobs will be the first to go, along
Well,
with
it depends
other
what the job
business. Yeah.
Depends.
To make things, like when I started my business, okay, everything associated with my industry was made in the United States. Today, it's all made in Asia, mostly China. So that if I want to buy certain components that I bought in Indiana or Chicago or wherever it was made, today I can't even buy some of those items. And if they are still made, it takes 6 or 8 weeks to get them because they're being shipped from China.
What did you say your industry was again?
Well, I have a couple, but this is just a manufacturing company. So it's all manufacturing is the same, Ray. I know people like to say that jobs are coming back to America, manufacturing is coming back to America. It's not happening. Anything that has any labor content in it at all can't come back because people want to spend, cheap Walmart prices in most goods.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Yep. So going forward in the future, this is all linked together. Eventually you will be affected. If the rest of the country can't compete, it's going to drag everybody down.
Well, don't you ever think that all the cheap Asian labor, and obviously those workers get paid wicked low, they have shitty lives, like, do you think they would ever demand more, and that cheap Asian manufacturing wouldn't be as lucrative as it is possibly today, that it would change?
Well, when you have 1.5 billion people, you can go a long time with cheap labor.
US.
Well, I understand that, but let's say their labor rate goes from $1 an hour to $2 an hour, or even $3 an hour. Are you going to work for $3 an hour? So they can go. They've got a long way to go before they ever get to the point.
But he does have a point. It is shifting. It's shifting from China to the south, even southern Asian countries like Vietnam, Thailand.
Vietnam is a big one. Yep. The Chinese, I understand, but it's not coming back to the United States. Is what my point.
Oh yeah, for sure. Unless it's very high skilled manufacturing, like airplane parts or those kind of things.
Well, I hate to tell you, but Boeing just announced this summer they announced they're laying off thousands of people, and those jobs are going to China where they're building a new manufacturing plant.
Yeah, I heard about that. They have a partnership with a Chinese company, so and that's actually one of the smart things they do is they partner. So they say if Boeing wants to work here, manufacture here, you have to partner with a Chinese firm, 60-40.
It's a temporary arrangement because, like they did with the high-speed rail, they bring you in, they learn everything you know, and then after a year or two, they say, "Hey, we don't need you anymore. You're fired."
Yes, that's exactly right. It's a way of getting the technology.
Yep. It's war. It's a form of warfare. It's in war. You do what you have to do to win, and that's what they're doing. Is that's my point that I said to Ben. Is so these companies agreed to the terms the Chinese government laid out because they were like, "Oh, we're going to get wealthy. Oh boy," and they didn't even comprehend that they were getting sold down the river. But the guys who ran the company didn't care because they weren't going to be there in 5 years anyways. They were going to walk away with their bonus either way. Hey, Ray, we have some questions for you here from some online people. They want to know if you speak another language and how long were you in China?
I was in China for about 6-7 months. And the other languages I don't speak it well, but I speak German that I'm learning right now, Spanish that I'm also learning, and then Chinese, the advanced beginner, intermediate level that I learned while I was there.
Is English your native language?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so, but you're a polyglot.
That's what I'm hoping for, but still got work.
Well,
What was the
that's
other question?
something else. When you go outside the United States, you quickly realize how important it is to know other languages.
Yeah, and if you speak the local language, you also get benefits. Well, they respect you more. You know, you get cheaper prices if you're ever buying anything, and they really love it. So you definitely get a measure of respect that you don't if you just speak English, which I did see. I worked as an intern at a marketing company when I was living in Shanghai. He lived there for 10 years, and and I ended up learning more Chinese than him, which is, I'd say, embarrassing, borderline disrespectful of him, you know, living there that long and not learning the language. Sorry, I couldn't hear you guys.
I said it's crazy. I've never understood that mind, that thinking of those people.
Well, there's definitely how you call it, expat bubble, specifically in like a lot of those bigger cities like Shanghai and Beijing. And so if you get sucked into it, all your friends are other expats. You don't really venture outside, and you don't really take the initiative to learn or make Chinese friends. Then you definitely won't learn it.
About this before, Ray. I told you whenever I travel to Mexico or China, I intentionally do not stay where the foreigners are. I go where the locals are because it forces me to use the local language. And it might not be comfortable, but if you want comfort, you stay home.
That's definitely true. Definitely.
Right? Yeah, that's good. Well, it's very good. So, Benny, do you have any more questions? Did I interrupt you?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay. Well, that's good. So all three of you guys feel confident that the money you're spending is going to be well spent.
Well, I think it doesn't just guarantee something in your field that you study, but also in a lot of places. For example, if you work for the state of New Hampshire or something, the first thing employers look at is having a college degree, regarding how much you spent on it, because that factors into your return, depending on how much you put into it, monetarily speaking. It gets you places with employers, because if they see that you have a college degree, you'll have a higher place to start. It's just, sometimes it doesn't matter what it is, but a lot of people, a lot of employers, companies think, well, he's got a degree, checks off a box on his resume or whatever, and it gets you a step farther. So that's just one other aspect, I think, about the degree situation.
Yeah, so it helps you when they're going through throwing resumes out. Hopefully, it gets yours on the in pile.
Yeah, it's another tick on the resume.
Yeah, and what you were saying about, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, and that's just worst case scenario. That's if you do something that's not in your major that you studied. It's just, oh, well, this guy's got a degree, so he went to college, he went through the ropes. It's something that will need to be beginning stepping stone. But that's all.
Yeah, and I was just,
probably not as worthwhile.
No, it's not. But not everyone starts their own business when they get out of school, or at all.
Ray, when do you graduate?
I graduate this May.
All right, so you're farther along than these guys.
Yeah.
So, Ray, are you going to go to graduate school to delay the process?
For economics, you need a minimum a master's to really do anything. So, or a PhD, but I don't know if I'll do a PhD.
Well, my brother was an economics major from Northeastern in Boston, and he became a stockbroker at Bear Stearns.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that was originally my goal, is to try to work at a banking, some banking field, but at
Well,
investment
Sheffield.
banking.
you should talk to Betty. Betty's the Goldman Sachs guy.
Yep.
Oh, nice, nice. I thought you were also a student.
Yeah, student, aspiring, partner at Goldman. Actually, no, I'm kidding.
Betty's going to own the world.
That's right.
Watch out,
But-
Jamie Dimon.
Oh yeah, it's taking him down.
But have you guys heard about the kind of movement, or is like the not anti-college, but on-college movement? Have you guys heard of that?
No.
No, tell
Where
us
they're
about
kind of like they're kind of like advocating, college is, which is true. The student loans are very crazy high. They're saying for a lot of people, it's not worth it. That they should
It is.
either go into like a trade school
Yep, I was
or
just saying
something
that.
else.
Well,
So
like
that's the
you said,
kind of
if you're majoring in education or childhood psychology, what's the point?
yeah. But the point I was going to make about that is, I'd say for like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, it depends, like you're saying student loans, it depends what your economic status is, whether you have to take out loans or not. I mean, if you're coming from, it's probably not going to be as much worth as if you're paying nothing, so it all depends.
Yeah,
But
that's definitely
anyway,
true. Yeah. For that, I was going to say, for the people who were saying the on-college movement, for the average person, I would say it's definitely worth it, because for those people who don't go to college and then end up making it, they were people who were already, very smart or had a lot of grit, a lot of talent, and they were going to make it anyway, whether they went to college or not. But for like the average person, I'd say it's still important, because it's a way of getting your foot in the door.
Not to mention that what you guys were just saying was all of these manufacturing jobs don't exist anymore. And in order to be employed, you really need some sort of, advanced degree or ability to, work in an intellectual kind of way, because you can't just assemble parts anymore and make a living usually. So it's just not possible.
80, I think it's like 80% of the people end up doing something unrelated to the degree they went to college.
yeah, but when they start off in the workforce, when they start off being hired,
It doesn't.
wouldn't they have been hired if they didn't have the degree?
Well, it doesn't matter what you study. Listen. I can tell you, and I know, I'm obsessed with this, but about a third of the people who go work on Wall Street majored in liberal arts. I mean, they're not using their degree. But if you go and study philosophy, if you study history at a reputable university, you're smart and you can articulate things well, and you're a good writer and you're a good thinker and you can communicate with people, you can work in teams and things like that. That's what matters in today's age. It's not so much the technical skills you get from the degree, especially like, even business. You're going to learn everything in the training and on the job. Nothing that I'm learning now is really going to come too much into play with some of these jobs. So I don't think
college is regurgitating information too.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a robotic function class, but yeah.
But for the STEM fields, it's still very much worth it going to college to learn them. Even then, it depends. But like things like in the IT field, you don't always have to have a college degree either. But they're what's going to be the most in demand, or like getting into AI or computer. What do you call it? Not software, but computer engineering. I think that's what it's called, or artificial intelligence. But I'd say
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, but if you're willing to go outside the United States with a U.S. degree, you still can go very far. But a lot of people aren't willing to, take that risk. It's kind of like a lot of places right now in the world are kind of like how China was in the 1980s. The people who entered then are, very rich people now. If that makes sense.
go east. I mean, there's more.
Oh, we can't hear you, David.
I said there's more opportunities outside the United States now. I've been saying, go east, young man.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, that's what I was also thinking.
Right. The well, what do you guys think about? What do you think? Instead of paying all this money for college, what about going back to like an apprentice system where you go to work for a company and you work in the equivalent of the mailroom and you work your way up and they pay for your education, and over the course of 4, 5, 6, 7 years, you learn the business as you're learning an education and you become a skilled person and you don't have the debt.
I'm not familiar. I know that in Germany, I think they actually have. I don't know if it's called an apprenticeship, but you actually, while you're in college, I think you do even a maximum or of like 2 years of an internship with like a financial services firm. And so it kind of has that aspect of it where you're just kind of soaking it in. And I don't know if they pay for your school, but other than that, I don't know. I don't know about that.
I can speak for a little bit on Germany since I'm applying to master's there. The education is actually free, but they do have that apprenticeship thing, and it's especially that's why Germany is one of the last places to have really strong manufacturing, is because they bring their students in and then they teach them the skills, and I think they also have like a college component with it, but they build them from the ground up like they used to here in America. If you wanted to be like a plumber, you would apprentice with a plumber, and then he would like guide you until you become a master plumber, and then you can go and do your own thing.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we don't. Well, they're kind of moving towards that now for like things like machining, because there's a huge shortage of it. So they're trying to get as many people and even paying for their college along with their internship, and they're also paying them during the internship. But I don't know too much about it other than that.
Well, Ray, going back to our original topic again, when Jake and I started this discussion, we were saying preaching in the Bible Belt, because we're both down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama right now, and so we were talking about what role does faith or religion or the Bible have in your lives?
Oh, is that for me or Ben? Me, well, with me personally, I'm not Christian. I'm kind of like agnostic, but I do believe that religion does play a huge role. One as like a moderating force, because it's hard to enforce or police people's actions. So when they have like a religion, they have like the fear of God preventing them from robbing or stealing or things like that. So I think it's still very crucial.
You think instilling a conscience in people?
Correct.
What about, did you hear the passage that we read when we opened the show?
No, I kind of came in late, so I didn't hear it.
Okay. Well, basically the passage talks about, I'll just read it real quick here. Right. Well, I want to read the exact passage. Okay. So in the Bible, in Matthew 20:23, it said, Jesus said to his disciples, "Truly I tell you, it is hard for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God." Now, what is your reaction to that after my reading it?
Well, I
have
think that.
something interesting.
Oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Go.
No, no, go. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I took like a history class on the Crusades, and the guy, I forget what he said, but he said he has like this like theory that was mistranslated about the needle going through the eye, and I forget what he said, but it's like I forget what he said, a needle through a thread maybe instead of a camel's eye, but that's a horrible
It's
tangent.
regurgitation.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
Truly embrace what he taught you.
Yeah, I know. Here, this is the value of a college education. I can now transcribe the camel through an eye. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Anyway, go ahead. I have no real point. I'm stepping down.
Well, my reaction to that, I would say, is maybe it would be like the opposite. Like a person who's rich has more of an opportunity to do good than a poor person, because the poor person has to first focus on themselves, becoming sufficient. But the more money you have, the more opportunity you have to do good. But the only other thing I would say about that is I know like a lot of people, they think like when they become wealthy, it's like a sign of God loving them, but it could also be like a test for them as well, because with more money it comes more responsibility. I think it was a billionaire who said, was it Jack Ma, I think, who said that? It was like $1 million is your money, $1 billion is the trust of the people.
Okay. Well, the same thing in Matthew. A young man came up to Jesus and asked him what he could do to guarantee eternal life. And basically, Jesus went through the list, and the young man said, I've done all these. What do I still lack? And Jesus said, if you want to be perfect, go sell all of your possessions and give the money to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come follow me.
Go live in the USSR. On that one. Kidding.
But, yeah, I suppose. So Jake and I were debating. See, the whole point is reading the Bible and quote unquote studying the Bible is one thing, but how many people actually understand it and translate this to their lives? And is it possible?
Well, if you want to are you talking about the New Testament, Old Testament? I mean, I don't know how you could ever translate the Old Testament and have that be a positive experience. But I don't know.
Yeah.
You'd be throwing lightning bolts around and destroying entire villages.
Right.
But
right. That was the angry God.
Yeah, something happened, and he got nicer. He drank his coffee. I don't know.
Yeah, I also don't know about that. Yeah, because I don't think you can, unless you're Baptist. I don't know if you could go by the literal translation of it. But I think maybe like the spirit of it.
Well, it's a good point because the original Bible was not written in English. The original Bible was written in Greek.
Well, it was translated into Greek.
No, I think the language is older than Greek. It's
Hebrew.
Spoke Aramaic.
No, it's older than Hebrew. Yeah, Aramaic. That's right.
Oh, Aramaic.
It was translated from Aramaic to Latin and Greek, and then from Latin back to English. So there might have been something lost in translation at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
There's always something lost in translation. Unless you speak those languages, we really don't know what the literal word is in the Bible.
Well, I think when they were translating the word of the scriptures, they would have many different sources, trustable sources, translated. I know when they translated it was Saint Jerome that translated it to Latin. he had 70 different people that he displaced throughout the world, so they couldn't communicate with each throughout the area together, so they couldn't collaborate. And he made sure that the translations were all equivalent before he made it to land okay. But I can't speak for the other translations though.
I don't know if it's true, but I heard once that there's a translation from Latin to English, and the Latin originally it was like Jesus brought the sword, and then it was translated to Jesus brought the word. So I don't know how authentic that is, but I've also heard that.
That's why they say the sword is mightier than the word, right? Or sword is,
Word is mightier than the sword.
word is mightier than the sword, right? You ever hear those sayings? Isn't that one of the sayings? Yeah. Well, that one too.
Yeah, I'd have to look into how credible that is, but I've heard some stuff kind of like that where the translation is more accurate in the Latin, but other than in the Vatican, most people don't speak it.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question then, guys. So the Bible probably, and I don't want to speak for you, but I'm just assuming the Bible does not play an active role in your daily life, correct?
Was that for me or Ben?
Both of you.
Yeah, I'd say no, it doesn't.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so, right. And so, is we lose somebody here? Okay. Yeah, because of the noise. Okay. Well, that's what I was talking before. Is you hear about how the disintegration of the family is a big issue in the United States and issues in the United States. And would somebody reading and understanding and applying the lessons of the Bible help with that? Or would it be a hindrance?
Well,
You want to go first, Ben?
well, so you're saying if Americans read the Bible, would it be, and took the word and implemented it into their lives, would it be a helpful situation?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, it depends on, I'm assuming you mean the New Testament.
Well, the Bible is the Old and the New Testament.
Well, they're very different.
Most of the, most of what, the lessons are from the apostles, right in there. A lot of these guys are writing the same story, just a different point of view.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, I'm not too familiar, honestly, with much of the lessons, but I think people, I want people to take responsibility for their own actions. I think that would help things, and I think people should, that's the main thing. Like you're saying, fiduciary responsibility. Same type of thing. Don't have children if you can't provide for them. Don't get a cell phone if you can't, pay your bills. That type of stuff is always a problem. But say that again.
Government will give me a free cell phone and they'll pay for my food for my baby.
Yeah, and there you go. It's very, it's there's trouble with that for sure. Trouble, but
yeah, and if I have 3 or 4 babies, then I get 5 times the money or whatever the rule is.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think you mentioned this earlier in your other live chat, but I think we're at a kind of a weird time where we're all so comfortable just not doing anything. Or I don't know what you were saying before, but Americans are in an age where you can be comfortable. You can just not have to really worry about any existential threat. Maybe the threat of terrorism once in a while, but You know, it's not the Cold War. It's not like, okay, we gotta, you know, defeat the Nazis. We gotta do this. I don't know if that plays a part into what's happened, but it's certainly a thought.
Not only that, Benny, but I mean, today, I mean, you know, if you have a job, even if you're working at McDonald's, you know, or you know, a minimum wage job, you're probably not going to starve to death.
Right.
You know, you might not be able to buy a Mercedes or a Lexus or a real nice home, but it's definitely not the same fear as in other places that you know you're worried about the basics in life.
Yeah, I mean, even people who don't have jobs, I don't think have to really worry about starving. I mean, you can. I mean,
Right.
I know in Boston. I know in Boston there's a lot of food banks. There's a lot of programs. I mean, I don't see people starve. I mean, I live in a city. I go to New York all the time. I don't see people starving, but maybe there are people. I don't know.
Well, there's supposedly 50 million people on food stamps in the United States.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or give or take a few million.
Yeah.
And I did a video that showed last month. I posted a video where I showed the supermarket on the 5th of the month when everybody's EBT cards were recharged, and it was like the circus came to town.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
It's like the only time that people leave the house is to go to the supermarket.
Yeah. Could be. Could be.
Well, yeah. Well, the quality of the food they buy is not good usually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know.
All right.
Yeah. Well, for me, I feel like if people did practice it, it would be. I think things would get better because there's a lot of like, even if you don't take everything, like the basic principles, if applied, create a more harmonious, safer, more productive society. I would say.
Right. Like, don't kill.
Yeah, well, and definitely after living in an atheist country, I would say I much prefer a country that had, a religious, backbone to it.
Well, but China actually, in many ways, is much safer than the United States.
Oh, that's true. That's true. They have a lot. It's you can go out at 2 a.m. and you'll be fine. But I meant more like, for example, if there's an old lady who drops her, I don't know, produce or something, no one's going to pick it up for her. Something that's kind of, unthinkable here, but, that kind of like the disintegration of, society.
Right, right. Yeah. Well, actually, they just passed a law this summer where they now, before people wouldn't help somebody in need because they were worried about being sued. They passed a Good Samaritan law there this summer that that protects you from getting sued if you help somebody in China.
Yeah, that's very good because people are very afraid of it, and I don't blame them, but it's a very sad thing to see. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, like when that little baby was run over by the truck.
Oh, did you see that? Wow.
Yeah, that was like 3 years ago now. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
My God, it was.
I mean,
it was.
People just walked by this little baby in the road and did nothing, and a truck ran her. The truck driver was an idiot, and 2 trucks ran her over. 2 trucks.
Yeah, I remember seeing that video, but they don't have the same like strict.
Oh no, nobody got in trouble.
Laws about. No, I meant just about sharing the video.
Oh yeah.
Here, at least they would crack down on that video, but it's very unfortunate. And so.
Yeah, it's I mean, somebody could. It's funny. I was talking to Will, one of the guys in my videos, from the Chinese guy, and I said to him, I said, it's kind of comical. I mean, you could kill somebody with your car, and you might get a fine, but probably you won't get in trouble with the law. But you steal some money, they'll execute you.
Yeah. That's definitely true. Or if you talk about the government in any way. If did you hear about the recent restrictions on WeChat, where if you're a group owner and someone says anything political or against the government in your WeChat group, the group owner is held accountable.
Oh, I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that. But
Yeah, that was kind of recent, 2 weeks ago, I think.
yeah, yeah. Well, you're not in China now, right? You're back in Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm back in America.
Yeah, yeah. You get just in time for the winter.
It's already snowing here.
Yeah, you can have it. That's why I headed south.
Are you going to Mexico this year or next year?
Yeah, I'm going in February, but right now I'm just going down to Florida.
Okay, next month I'll be in Colombia for my break, so hopefully that'll be good.
Well, have you been there before?
No, never. That's why I'm learning Spanish at the moment.
Where in Colombia are you going?
Cartagena.
Just Cartagena?
Maybe Bogota, because I think that's where my flight will stop.
Oh, well, they're very far apart. So you're not going to stop in Medellin?
Oh, that's a closer flight?
Well, I went to all three. It's a lot easier to fly between Bogota and Medellin and Cartagena. I mean, you can take a bus, but
I think it's 10 hours or something. Yeah.
And you don't save a lot of money. If you book in advance, you can literally you can find flights. If you go to Skyscanner, okay, go to Skyscanner and look for flights find the cheapest deal you can to either Medellin or Bogota, and then just use flights inside the country to fly you. So what I did was I flew into Medellin. I found a cheap flight to Medellin, and then I flew to Bogota, and then I flew from Bogota to Cartagena, and then I flew back to Medellin.
Oh, okay, so the flights inside the country are pretty cheap.
Oh yeah, they're like $40 one way.
Oh, okay, that's perfect.
If
I
you
might just
book
do that.
if you wait, they go up to like $100. So book in advance.
Yeah, my mom's friend, she's from Colombia, and she said to wait till January to book it because it'll be the cheapest then. I guess that's sort of low season or something.
I can't answer that. It's just I don't know. So you'd be going from Minneapolis down there. I even forget off the top of my head how much I paid, but
Yeah, I was looking at it now. It's about 800.
well, that's a lot of money. I didn't pay that.
But did you fly from Maine
I'll have
or New York or
Boston.
Boston? Okay, that's
Yeah,
about
Boston
this.
Boston to Medellin.
Did you stop in Miami or Texas?
Yeah, connect in Miami.
Miami. Okay. Yeah,
Yep,
that's
connect.
also the one I saw. Yeah.
Yep. And I want to say I probably paid $400 if I remember correctly, or something.
Whoa, that's really good.
Yeah,
I
I
see
usually.
ones for thousands.
Well, how much did you pay to come back from China?
About 1,600.
Wow. I paid. You know how much I paid last time I went to China a couple months ago? I paid $504 round trip.
Wow, how'd you get that? I always figured if from inland it's more expensive. I don't know. Flying out of Minneapolis is always expensive.
Well, there you go. That's a good point. It's I was flying from Boston. Yeah.
I'll definitely search more then.
Yeah. Well, what you can do is you can look for a cheap flight to Boston or New York, and then search for flights from there.
Oh, that's a good idea. I never thought of that.
And then a lot of times the money you save, you can stay over in those cities and, spend a day in those cities exploring and then catch a flight the next day. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
And yep. So, Yeah, definitely look at flying into Medellin. Medellin was the cheapest place. It's Medellin was the cheapest place I found, but Bogota wasn't too bad. Cartagena was the most expensive. That's why I didn't go there.
Oh, for a direct flight. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Yep. But search all three and compare.
Okay. Well, we'll do. Thank you.
Yep. And you said you have local friends there?
Yeah. One in Cartagena.
Okay.
So I'll stay at his place. So it's gonna be. Won't have to pay any hotels or anything.
Yeah, because I had a couple close calls in Colombia actually, in broad daylight.
Oh, like robbery?
Well, up in Bogota, I was walking around and I went down this one street, and they have a lot of homeless people up there. And these guys were living in like cardboard boxes on the street, and they started coming out like zombies. And I had a couple of them coming after me, and I turned around and got out of there. I wasn't going to stick around.
Was that in the more shady areas or just regular?
Well, it was one block off the main drag. I was going to look at this church that had nice architecture, and I got out of there. Fortunately, it didn't escalate to anything, but I thought there was a very good chance. It's a long story, but the short version is I got out of there without any problems. But the cops are not interested in getting involved or helping you there.
Oh,
And
wow.
then I have a video. If you can look at it, if you go to my playlist in Colombia, there's a video there where I was recording in one section this guy getting the crap beat out of him.
Oh,
Yeah,
this is in Bogota or
this is Medellin.
Medellin. Okay.
Medellin. And I did not record this, otherwise I probably wouldn't be here. But at the end of that video, there's a girl with white pants and a red shirt with long black hair. Right at the end of the video. And when I stopped filming, she came up to me and she solicited me. She was probably like 17 years old. And I was like, I was talking to her, but I wasn't going back to her house with her. And when, basically her pimps were like 17, 18-year-old kids, and they were standing next to her, and they tried to come up to me and talk to me. They tried to talk me into going back with her. And one of the guys opened up his shirt to show me his pants, and inside his waistband, he had a pistol.
So they were going to rob you. That's what they're going to do.
I have no idea what they were going to do, but I said to him, hey, man, I don't want any problems with you, and I left. that was the cue for me to leave.
Were you more targeted because you looked like a foreigner, or is it just because of, I don't know?
My rule of thumb, Ray, is this. My rule of thumb is as follows. When I go to unknown territories, I keep moving. If you stop for too long, whether it's to look at trinkets or whatever, if there are crimes, most of these crimes are crimes of opportunity. Typically, you walk someplace, somebody sees you, and they're like, hey, this is an easy target. But these are not things that people think of immediately. Usually, they need a few minutes to think about how they're going to do this, right?
Yeah.
So if you're already gone before you'll see them coming because they'll be following you. Right? Okay, but if you stay in one area, you'll never see it coming. You're dead. You have to keep moving, and that's the thing to keep in mind is if you go out to bars. See, I don't go to the bars or the clubs and any of that stuff because you're sitting duck. You're sitting duck.
Do they also do that to locals, or you think it's more because you're a foreigner?
Well, I think it depends on the country. Going to China, I think, for example, being a foreigner, you're safer. than being Chinese. But I think going to Colombia, I don't think it matters. I think if you have a saying in Colombia and they say, don't give anyone papaya. And that means what they're saying is, and if you take the tours, they'll tell you this. It means don't give anybody the opportunity. And that's what it means is if you give people, if you do something stupid like, oh, my wallet's hanging out of my pocket, then some guy's going to see it and he's going to take it because their culture is like, well, you're such a stupid ass. Thank you. You're giving it to me.
Yeah, because I asked that because I actually look Colombian. So a lot of people told me that. So I wonder if I looked more like the locals, if that would make me safer or not.
Well,
if I spoke, definitely they would know I'm not from there. But
I think what it does is obviously I'm going to stick out compared to you then, right? They're going to notice me.
Yeah, yeah.
How tall are you?
About 5'7".
5'7". Well, I don't know. I mean, you might blend in. I mean, the other thing is I mean, I'm 6'2", so I tend to stick out a little bit that way, and I've got a white face. Even when I tan, I have a white face, and so I definitely am noticed in Colombia. Now, and I look like a gringo, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So I think that in some circumstances, people won't mess with me because most people don't want to engage in that. But there are going to be some people who don't care, and they're gonna try to take what I have, whether they kill me or whether they are worried about getting hurt. So I go back to what I said is whatever you do, if you're walking on the street, if you're going anywhere, just keep moving, man. Just keep moving. And if the minute you sense danger, you got to go. You don't stand there. The most important lesson I can give you is when your spidey sense is telling you that there's danger, you don't sit there and say, should I be worried about this? Should I be concerned with this? You don't even worry. You don't even ask those questions. You say, it's time to go, and you go. Okay?
Okay. For sure.
Because
I'll definitely apply.
absolutely, if you're sitting there rationalizing it, you're going to have a knife in your throat, and you're going to be like, well, I guess I should have left.
Yeah, that's actually one of my bad habits is I kind of like wander and I look around. So maybe that would make me like an easier target.
Not if you keep moving. You got to keep moving. And then if you see people, like I've had people where I'll be walking down the street and there'll be some guys coming towards me. And then I'll notice a few minutes later that the guys are behind me following me. Okay? That's not a good sign.
So definitely be observant is what you're saying.
That's half the battle. I mean, if you've got your head in your phone, or if you're not paying attention, they'll think that you're an easy mark.
So what do you think about taking out your phone there? Do most people? I was told that most people don't take out their phones; they just kind of leave it in their pockets.
No, the other thing they look for is like if you're carrying anything, they will come alongside you on a motorcycle and take what you have. So you never want to be walking. When you're walking on a sidewalk along the street, you want your bag on the inside, not the outside. You understand?
Yeah, the motorcade snatch. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That happened to a couple. I was actually in Cartagena, and it happened to a couple down there. This woman had everything in her bag: her passport, all her money, her jewelry, whatever the hell she had, her camera. Everything was gone because the guy took her bag. And before they could react, I mean, they're a mile away.
Wow, it's pretty dangerous.
So, but if they had been aware, if they had been looking around, they would have seen this guy coming. Instead they were lovers walking arm in arm, in their own world when they were really in Cartagena, Colombia, and they offered papaya and somebody took it.
Definitely, definitely.
That's it. So, I mean, it's whatever you do. I mean, it's how you carry yourself. I mean, listen, when I go to these countries, I don't worry about it, but I'm aware that something could happen. So I talk about it in all my videos, Ray. I may have the camera like this, but my head is always on a swivel. It's always on a swivel. And that means that I am looking for whatever danger, and then I trust my instincts. If my instincts tell me something is not right, the other thing I'll do sometimes is I'll be walking in one direction and I will change directions. And then I'll change the direction again. And if somebody is following you, they're going to have to change the direction, the same pattern. And if all of a sudden you notice somebody doing the same pattern as you, you know you have a tail.
So did you gain this experience just from traveling, or were you like military before?
Well, it's common sense, right? I mean, it's just being aware. It's just realizing,
Okay.
it's realizing that you're not in Kansas anymore or Minnesota.
Because I definitely wouldn't have thought of that. The only thing I didn't know about is keeping your valuables in your pockets. I don't never had like a purse, but a backpack maybe on the side of whichever side away from the.
Yeah, we'll wear it. Like when I carry a backpack, it's on my back. It's you know, and some people, what they do is, I know people, and I know this guy who traveled to Colombia, and he had his stuff in his backpack, and one person came up and started asking him questions and distracting him. Like this woman started coming up and grabbing his hand, and he's like, "Oh, hey, how you doing?" But what he didn't realize is the friend was in the backpack taking all his stuff because he couldn't feel it because he was being distracted. So the other thing is when there's people around you, you flip the backpack around and you wear it on your chest.
Yeah, the only time I've always been very close to having something stolen was when I was in a car and I had my phone out the window, you know, while I was in the taxi, and a motorcycle came and tried to snatch it from me. I think that's the closest I've ever come.
Where was that?
That was in Kenya.
Okay, well.
Yeah, I was in Nairobi at the time, but that's the only experience I had. But overall, the experience in Nairobi was also very good.
Right. Well, there you go. I mean, I definitely. I mean, Colombia was. I mean, I didn't let it stop me from going to places that people said don't go to. I just made sure it was in the daytime, and I made sure that I was alert and aware. And if I saw anything coming, you know, I would always be thinking. I would always be looking around, saying, okay, if something goes down, what am I going to do? Where am I running to? How am I going to get out of this? And it never happened, but my brain was always aware of those things, and I think that's probably why it didn't happen. Okay? I wasn't walking around in a fog thinking that it wasn't even possible, because then you would have looked like a victim. And if you look like a victim, you become a victim.
For sure, for sure.
So just stay alert, man, and trust your instinct. Yeah. So we're getting along. It's oh my God, it's midnight here.
There's one here.
Oh boy. Hey, well, guys, we'll have to pick it up again another time. And Ray, when are you going to Colombia?
Sometime in January, I think, like the 2nd.
Oh, well, you don't have your flight booked?
No, not yet.
Wow.
Yeah, I
That's
was
like,
told not to book until December 3rd because she always flies to Colombia every year, and that's when she buys it. So I don't know.
okay.
So hopefully
All
it
right.
works out. Yeah.
Either way, he'll get that.
Hey, good talking to you guys. Have a great night, okay?
All right.
You too.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Signing off.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye now.